It's Lee Kelson coming to you live once again from the Indonesian Australian Digital Forum. Yes, I keep calling it the Digital Summit, so I'm getting in trouble from Tanisha for that. And I'm here with Michael Gethen of Gethen Media Capital. How are you, Michael?
Really well, Lee, and thank you for taking some time to talk to me.
I was going to say the same to you. Thanks for coming and talking to us. So we've had an amazing couple of days in Jakarta. I'm blown away by what's happening in this market. What's your feelings?
There is so much happening here and so much opportunity. Quick little background. I live and work principally in Singapore, but I work right across Asia, and particularly I work across the Southeast Asian markets. And certainly Indonesia is not alone. There's a whole lot of good stuff happening in Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, etc. But, we've got 10 times the population of Australia, and it's a huge market, and there's this vibrant energy and ecosystem of people all doing their own thing. So.
Collaboration is the thing that comes to the top of my mind. And I was going to get to the backstory. So you do live in Singapore, but just give us a little bit of background about how you arrived at, you're obviously from Australia, you've got an Australian accent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And then maybe a little bit about Gethen Media Capital.
Okay, so I come from Sydney, and I discovered the internet like a lot of people in the late 90s, and up until that point I'd been a multinational corporate type guy, general management, MBA and all that sort of stuff. Built businesses, run businesses, done a lot of M&A. Was part of the original management team of Fairfax Digital, and so helped build that internet business for Fairfax. Went and worked for another big media company in Australia owned by the Hannon family, built a bunch of really cool stuff that's still around today, Vogue magazine online, taste.com.au, they're all children of my origin.
Right, yeah.
So I've actually built businesses hands-on as an entrepreneur inside big media companies.
Right.
And then about 12 odd years ago, I decided that having built businesses for other people, I should start building businesses for myself. So I leapt into my own company, focused on what I did, which I did kind of well, the corporate advisory. So raising capital, developing business strategy, transacting and helping people sell businesses, and helping little businesses become great big businesses. And that was a good gig. It is a good gig, and that had me arrive in Singapore raising capital for a startup in Singapore in 2010. And I kind of looked around and went, this is where it's all happening. Asia is where the energy is. Australia was still kind of recovering from the GFC at that point. And so I based myself in Singapore. So I've been there nearly 8 years now. I founded a business there with a business partner, a software technology business called Spruky. And
I told you keep walking out of frame.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And we built the Spruky SaaS analytics business across Asia.
So just Spruky? What's Spruky?
So Spruky is a cloud-based technology platform for the retail sector that focuses on customer engagement, mobile commerce, data analytics, and helping retailers connect with shoppers today to compete against e-commerce.
Right. Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of shopping malls and retailer companies around Asia and in Australia that have the Spruky engine and back-end embedded in things like apps and their CRM and all that sort of stuff.
Right, okay.
And that was a 6-year, very hard slog building a business. And we exited that business last year to an ASX-listed technology group called Inviga Group. The Spruky business now is fully integrated, or it's all part of Inviga. And I'm now coming back to the advisory world and deeply involved in the startup ecosystem in Singapore and increasingly here. My wife is Indonesian, so hence I have a lot of familiarity with Indonesia.
Yeah.
And there's just so much good stuff happening here.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of a background, a connection with Indonesia. So I grew up on Christmas Island, which is about, I don't know, 800 kilometres off the coast of Indonesia, and we used to visit here frequently. And I went to school, Indonesian school, and learned Indonesian. This is many years ago, so I can count. All right, I can count, Tanisha, can't I? I can count. But it is starting to come back to me actually. But I love it, and when I come back here, I feel like I'm sort of back home.
It feels familiar.
It feels really familiar, and so. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, they exit and then they sit back and go, yoo-hoo, that was great. Now I'm going to buy a boat and go surfing and...
A villa in Lombok.
a villa in Lombok. Okay. Well, that's not a bad place to have a villa. But you can't spend 24/7 in your villa in Lombok, right?
No, absolutely not.
And given that you've got an entrepreneurial active mind, you've got to find something for yourself to do. Well, I guess that's my opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
Would you agree? Yeah.
So one of the reasons I like the corporate advisory world is it kind of caters to my occasionally short attention span. So, working with a variety of projects, different types of transactions, involved with lots of different businesses. And it's, I guess, I feel like I've earned my stripes in terms of being able to, render professional advice that's not just theoretical, it's based on real experience, and working with typically, in my case, mid-stage businesses that have already got their product market fit sorted out. They've got concept validation. They're moving from the startup to the scale-up space.
Yes.
I guess that's one of the reasons why I think both of us have an interest in StartMesh.
StartMesh. Well, seeing how you brought it up, I didn't. Let's talk about StartMesh. So, so Richard Webb, the CEO and founder of who we both know.
Yes.
So just tell us about your background with Richard, and then we can talk a little bit about what StartMesh is all about.
Sure. So I've known Richard for 17, 18 years, back to his days when he was at Red Sheriff, I was at Fairfax. We've collaborated and done stuff together a number of times. I had some involvement at the tail end of a number of businesses, Blue Freeway as an example, that I took forward with another company. So he's a smart guy, and StartMesh is a really good idea that addresses the problem of, for many early stage businesses, money isn't enough, right? So in order to get to global scale and global success, they need resources, and even money won't actually get you there, because in many cases businesses need to go global. So they need, first of all, input into the scaling strategy. They need people on the ground in wherever, North America or Europe or wherever else. And so StartMesh brings the venture catalyst model to the world, and
okay, venture catalyst.
Yes, venture catalyst. So this is all about. Sorry, I'm wandering again. Sorry, people.
He's wandering. You're going to need to fence him in.
The venture catalyst model begins typically where the early stage incubation programs finish. So once you have a business that's got customer validation, some degree of product market fit, some amount of revenue, and then the challenge is to scale it up to be consistently profitable and to get to some form of liquidity event, be that an IPO or a trade sale, some sort of action. Yeah. And you'll only get that through having a really committed group of people around and in the business. Founders, with all their bravado, will get to a point where they go, I need help. Right? And I need people to help my thinking, and I need people to help with my execution. And that's what StartMesh brings.
So I love that, though. I love that comment. I just want to pick up on that. I need people to help with my thinking.
Yeah. So being an entrepreneur and a founder in a business requires the ability to ignore the rest of the world and focus on the problem you've decided to solve. But that's a double-edged sword, right?
Yes.
One of the differentiators for me between great entrepreneurs and okay ones is the ability to go, actually I might not be wrong. I might not be right. I could actually be wrong.
Right.
So I need a like-minded group of people around me that I can validate my concepts. And I'm, probably going to ignore them most of the time because, I have the answer.
So I have one of my mentors who I ring regularly, and I have this, brainwave idea or whatever, and I usually start or finish the conversation with, is it just me, or have I gone crazy, right? Because sometimes you do feel like you have gone crazy with what you've come up with.
Yes, very much so. And so the Start Mesh model, I think, is a really good one, where the business that becomes part of the Start Mesh network has a partner assigned to them who becomes the non-executive chair of the business.
Yes.
So you bring in the formality and the governance of looking at the business from the outside, protecting shareholder interests, and ensuring the business actually gets to where it needs to be without the weaknesses of every founder overcoming their great strengths. It's really about enabling founders to focus on their strengths, do what they do well, focus on product market fit, focus on customer growth, and a lot of the other stuff, it's like you can outsource that to people around you.
Right. And so you say it's not just money, so you get the non-exec chair to come onto the board to help you put that rigour and that governance and the compliance component into it. But what about the services that you need in terms of, you've got to build websites, you've got to build technology stacks. How does StartMesh support that activity?
So StartMesh has a network of, and I might not have the number right, but roughly 150 people around the world. And some of those are, if you like, the generalists like myself, the partners, but there's a whole bunch of vertical specialists that have particular domain expertise, cybersecurity, marketplaces, and then you've got people with the functional skills across technology, marketing, finance. And so what the StartMesh business does is bring to the founder this network of resources, and some of the services will be potentially StartMesh commercializing or actually building or doing stuff. In other cases, it might be the development of the strategy and providing the coaching and the guidance to help take the business forward.
Right. So, for example, if I had a widget that I wanted to sell and I wanted to go and StartMesh had helped me with my strategy, I assume, to develop that strategy, and that would be identifying which would be the most suitable market, perhaps which is might be a number of variables, the easiest to get into, the cultural, the currencies, there could be a whole raft of things that need to be taken into account. But let's say I've got my widget and you say, okay, well, let's take you into Paris, for example. That network at StartMesh is there on the ground to basically drop into that and away you go.
Yeah, and the network is growing every month, new partners and new specialists coming on board every month. But yeah, the network is around the world. It's in all the major markets, particularly Europe, North America, Asia. There's a really good network of people. And I mean, the key focus is really around commercialization. And in terms of businesses scaling, it will often mean building alliances or developing a market entry strategy. And so StartMesh brings people on the ground. So, if your widget is something that, the big deal that would get the business running is to go and do a deal, I'll pick a company at random, with Procter & Gamble in the US, then there'll be a partner or a commercialization specialist somewhere in the US that will go, I can open my black book. I know some people at Procter & Gamble, and we can take you in, and
So that's pretty powerful, because a lot of early stage companies, as you say, one of my favourite questions when the first question the startup says to me is, I need some money, I want to raise some money, and I say, okay, well, if I gave you $250,000, what would you do with it? And they look at you blankly. So I say, well, maybe it's not just money that you need.
Yeah, very much so. Well, part of that is they may well be able to do that global scale up on their own, and I'm thinking here with my investor hat on, they're going to incur a whole lot of fixed expense. So they go, okay, we're a really good Indonesian founded business and we want to launch into North America. Well, hey, all of a sudden you need $500,000 to put a couple of people on the ground and get everything going, and with absolutely no guarantee of success.
Yes.
So a big part of the StartMesh model is also that it's de-risking it, because the services in many cases are on a performance basis. So if that partner in the US can go and get that deal over the line for you in the Minneapolis, wherever, then it's a variable cost, not a fixed cost, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's an excellent thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so next stop for us on our Asia Pacific journey is Singapore. So maybe we need to talk about how you can help us get into the ecosystem in Singapore.
Yes, sure.
Shout out to Richard. Say hi, Richard, because I'll send you the
Hello,
video.
Richard. See you in Singapore in a couple of weeks' time.
And Michael, thanks very much. If people want to contact you, we've got a website you can point them to.
Gethen.co. Gethen.co.
And you're on LinkedIn, social media.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all of it.
You're on all of it.
Yeah.
All right. Michael, thanks again for speaking with us. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, thanks,
All the
Lee.
best.